I, 28F, love to bake and I will often make cakes and stuff for friends, and since I met my in-laws in 2018, for them as well. My sister-in-law asked me to bake her daughter's birthday cake for her birthday this weekend. This was back in October and we discussed what she wanted in detail. It's not my first time making her cakes, but it is my first time as her sister-in-law officially, and where I felt like I was truly part of a family. 3 days ago I was out grocery shopping and I ran into a family friend of my in-laws. This person is not someone I like very much. She's a bad gossip and seems to have some malice in her while sharing gossip about others. I try to be polite to everyone and normally I don't talk to her. But she stopped me and went out of her way to ask me when my husband and I are having kids. Then she mentioned me being a foster kid and an affair baby, and she did it in a way that was meant to come across as actual concern but was really her being intrusive and cruel. She mentioned that my in-laws and sister-in-law were concerned about our kids not having anyone. I told my husband when he got home from work and I was a mess. It might seem dumb, but I felt like his family betrayed the trust I put in them, and they did the one thing they were asked not to do, which was tell people about my history. It's not something I want to broadcast to everyone who knows me. My husband confronted his parents and sister and they said they only mentioned it to a few close circle people and they defended it when my husband said that wasn't okay. Sister-in-law said it's not like people wouldn't find out eventually, and he asked her how they would find out if we never told them. My history is that both my parents were married to others and had children with their other spouses when they had an affair. I was the result. Both sets of first children were technically adults or close to it when I was born. The day before my 5th birthday we were in the car together and it crashed. My parents died and so did the people in the other car. I was the only survivor and I was in hospital for a few weeks after. Nobody in either of my parents' families wanted me and I was brought up in foster care the rest of my life. I never found a family. After hearing sister-in-law say what she did and realize how unapologetic they were and hearing how little they cared about what they did to me, I asked if I could speak to sister-in-law for a second and told her not to expect a cake from me after going against what I wanted and having such little care for the harm it caused. She went crazy and said it was only 3 days until the birthday party and my husband backed me up and said so what. She and their parents were blowing up his phone so bad he had to block them, and I worry that I'm being a bit of an a-hole saying no with such short notice. Comment 1, NTA. They treated you like family to your face, were willing to have you bake cakes for them, but they couldn't not share your personal backstory to others after being told explicitly not to. Huge violation of trust, and I am very happy to hear that your husband is backing you up and setting a boundary with his family. I'm also very sorry to hear that you're going through this. It must be heartbreaking. Comment 2. NTA. Your family history is not theirs to share, whether or not you had explicitly told them not to beforehand. The fact that they did so even then is as disrespectful as it shows they have no consideration or empathy on your behalf. In which world did they thought you would take the news of your tragic past being shared around behind your back and not be mad about it? Are they so out of touch with reality that they genuinely cannot see how wrong it is? Your sister-in-law is lucky she even got a warning after what she, and her parents, did, especially considering how they aren't even apologetic about it. If I had been in your own shoes, she would have found out on the day of the birthday when I wouldn't have shown up with the promised cake. Or better yet, thrown that whole cake right up in her face. Kudos for your husband to take your side and defend your honor. He should be the one to get that cake instead. Comment 3. NTA. The whole bunch of in-laws sound terrible. They honestly expect you to respond to their cruelty with kindness. That's messed up. Go low or no contact with those trolls. I, 28F, had a boyfriend, Lachlan, who suddenly and unexpectedly passed away 7 years ago, after 4 years together and over 2 years living together. I was, of course, a complete mess after he passed. As a way to memorialize him, I got a tattoo of his name over my heart. I now have a boyfriend, 27M, who I've been with for a year and a half. He's known since we started dating that I had a boyfriend who passed away, and about the tattoo. Now that we've been together for a while and we're starting to talk about our future together, he has asked me to remove the tattoo, and is offering to pay for the removal. His view is that it's unfair to him that I have a previous boyfriend's name tattooed on my body, especially in such a visible place, and asserts that no man would be comfortable with that. I haven't been in any relationships this long or this serious since Lachlan passed, so I genuinely don't know if that's true. He doesn't like that he has to see it when I take my shirt off, and that people can see another man's name on my body when I wear singlet tops or swimmers. He thinks my reluctance to remove the tattoo is an indication that I'm hung up on another man, and if I'm not 100% over Lachlan, I can't be 100% committed to my relationship with him. My view is that I can hold space in my heart for my love and grief for Lachlan and my love for my boyfriend and intention to have a future with him. Lachlan will always be a huge part of my life, and his passing will always be a source of grief for me. The tattoo is my way of honoring the impact he had on me. I don't believe any of that detracts from my relationship with my boyfriend now. I think it's silly to be jealous of a dead person. I feel that his concern about what others might think is a little petty, but I offered to add 1995 to 2016 underneath it so it would be clear to others that it's a memorial tattoo. He didn't accept that as a reasonable compromise. My boyfriend thinks my judgment on this might be skewed because I'm still grieving, so I want to get impartial opinions. Am I wrong to keep a tattoo dedicated to another man over my heart while I'm in a relationship with someone else? Comment 1. NTA Unfortunately, I don't think you're compatible with this man. Not everyone can grasp that Lachlan isn't your ex, he is your deceased partner. You never broke up and therefore never stopped loving him. This is hard for a lot of people, and you need to find someone that will understand and support the fact that you may hold love for Lachlan for the rest of your life. Comment 2. It's your body, you're allowed to do what you want with it, and if you feel like it's an appropriate way to honor your deceased boyfriend, that is perfectly acceptable. But it's also fair that your boyfriend may not like to see another man's name over your heart. Personally, I would also be uncomfortable if I had a partner with that. He needs to think about whether he can learn to accept the tattoo, or not. Comment 3. This is a difficult one. I think most rational men would understand that your ex still holds a place in your heart, but it's another thing altogether having his name literally tattooed on you, as it's not only a constant reminder every time they see it, but the name being on your body symbolizes something a lot realer than just being part of your past. You're not wrong for keeping the tattoo, and he's not wrong for asking you to remove it. What I will say is, you probably lacked a bit of foresight at the time getting the tattoo that this could inevitably be an issue if you were ever going to have another relationship down the line. I will call my brother Tim. I am almost 26 years old, and for the majority of my childhood I was moved from house to house without ever feeling like I belonged. By the time I was 9, I think I had lived in 17 different foster families. Nowhere wanted me. I was troubled and couldn't form emotional bonds because of how awful I had been treated, and so I acted awfully to every set of foster parents I got. Until I was moved in with an amazing couple named P and S. I was almost 10 by this point. Everyone was telling me this would be my new family, but I had heard it all before and didn't believe a word. P and S had a child already. Tim was 17 years old and an amazing person who I grew to love. My new parents were everything I needed at that point. They were caring, understanding, they gave me space but let me express my affection to them when I wanted to without ever pressuring me. After a year I started to believe what everyone told me, they were my new family. Obviously I'm leaving out a lot here for the sake of the character limit, but what I'm trying to say is I grew to think of them as my real parents and they grew to think of me as their real son. Sadly, Tim got addicted to drugs in his early 20s and has been in and out of hospital and rehabs ever since. P passed away after being in a fatal crash. My one regret in life is that I never called P Dad to his face. I was too scared of rejection, and so every time I tried the word just never came out. I just wish I could go back and say it to him. After P died, I plucked up the courage to call S Mom a few times and she cried when I first did. She said they had been waiting for years and that Dad was so proud of me. Duck. It still hurts so much even now. Less than 6 months later, S found out she had lung cancer and sadly passed away in less than a year. Tim was a shell of the person I met at 9 years old. It hurts seeing him like that. Our parents had a lot of saving and Mom made me promise to give Tim the time to get sober. She told me to not give him any access to any money no matter how hard it was. I kept the promise I made to her. No matter how much he begged and bullied and guilted me, I never gave him a penny. Mom told me to keep it for 5 years after she passed, and if he wasn't completely sober, by then I was to use it to buy a house and set myself up. 5 years passed, Tim had made no progress in becoming sober, so I did what Mom told me to and I used his share to set myself up. It's been 3 years since then and Tim is finally sober and has been asking for his part of the inheritance. I told him it was gone and he went crazy at me, saying I had no right to take his parents' money like that. Now I can't help but feel so guilty. I think I should have waited at least 10 years. And am considering selling my house to give him his half. My wife says not to. I don't know what to do. Comment 1, as someone with an adopted younger brother. This made me cry. NTA. Not at all. And don't feel guilty for never calling your dad dad. It's so incredibly hard for adoptive children to do the first time, and it sounds like he knew what you thought of him. He knew he was your dad. Comment 2. This is a deeply complex situation with no easy answers. On one hand, you followed your mother's instructions to safeguard the money from potentially fueling Tim's addiction, which was a responsible and difficult decision. On the other hand, Tim's feelings of being left out now that he's sober are also understandable. However, it's important to remember that you used the inheritance as advised to secure your own future, as your mother intended. Selling your house to give Tim his share now might not be the solution, especially if it compromises your own financial stability. It might be worth exploring other ways to support Tim now that he's sober, without undoing the progress you've made in your own life. Consider having an open and honest conversation with Tim about the situation, the decisions you had to make, and how you can support each other moving forward. It might also be helpful to seek advice from a financial advisor or a therapist to navigate this sensitive family matter. Comment 3. Put yourself in Tim's place. What will your refusal do to him emotionally and practically? What will this refusal do to you? Your mom really wanted to leave a share to her sober son. That's understandable. Her timeline was not the timeline Tim needed to get sober. Look long and hard at her intent. Look long and hard at what this will do to both you and your brother. Personally, I have to be grateful for his sobriety and I'd borrow against the house to give him his share. Remember, this is not money you worked for and earned. The money came from your parents. Addictions are horrible to conquer. We all need kindness and grace sometime. My 16F, whole family, grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, is attending a formal event in a couple of weeks. My step-cousin Jen and I are the same age, and her dad married my aunt when she was 6. Jen's dad doesn't make a lot of money, so Jen didn't have a lot of things growing up, and my mother would always give my old things to Jen rather than throw them away. Especially for formal events, which we all attend quite often because of my grandparents, my mother would always take the dress I'd worn to the last function and give it to Jen so that her dad didn't have to buy one. As we're now older and not growing, I now only loan the dresses to Jen. I assumed it would be the same this time, so a few days ago when Jen and her family came over for dinner, I took Jen upstairs to give her the dress. Jen saw the new dress I had for the event and asked if I would loan her that one instead. She said she'd never got to wear a dress everyone hadn't already seen me in and it wasn't fair, she always had hand-me-downs. I said no, because I'd bought the dress to wear to this event. I was being nice to lend her a dress, she doesn't get to demand it be the new one. Jen and I were arguing and eventually the adults got involved. My parents stick up for me and said I don't have to share the dress, but Jen was very upset and her dad took her side, saying it wouldn't kill me to wear one of the many other dresses I have and just let Jen have the special one for once. I then said if she wants a specific dress he should buy it, not try and take it from kids, which set him off. The parents are now fighting over this dress drama, and part of me thinks maybe I should have just loaned Jen the dress. I love that dress and I was excited to wear it, which is why I didn't, and my parents say I absolutely shouldn't. But I don't want everyone to fall out over it. Comment 1. NTA. The real here is Jen's dad. I can understand Jen wanting the dress. It must be difficult for her to never get a new dress. You are totally right to want to keep your dress. But Jen's dad should make an effort. Take another job, work overtime, or even borrow money for once be able to offer this to his daughter. It's good that your parents were on your side. Comment 2. NTA. I feel for Jen, but you aren't the reason she's never had a new dress. Her parents are. Of course her dad immediately was on her side. It's making him look terrible, not you and not Jen either. Please try not to be too hard on her. She's wrong to want to wear your stuff before you do, but she's also hurting. She's had nothing but hand-me-downs her whole life.